Hi, I'm Native G. My first rehab, I was 30, in my early 30s. I already been to AA and a bunch of detoxes, but I picked up a court case and I went to court and the judge said rehab or jail for a year. Lockdown rehab for a year or jail for a year. And I picked rehab. And he said, you got 2 weeks to get into rehab or come back to court. So I got into rehab, and they called the courts. I was in a co-ed men and women rehab. It was a big facility. There was the residential program, which had like 50, 70 people in it. Then there was the detox, which held 50 to some odd people every two, and then they had a holding. I think there was a total of like 150 to 170 people at most times, because when I worked in the kitchen for a while, so we had to cook for all of them. You cook for the detox, cook for the holding, cook for the residential. And when you first get to rehab, when I got to that rehab, they give you a job. The first job is right away is housekeeping. So you clean the bathrooms, you vacuum, you clean the stairs, you mop the kitchen, you mop the dining room, and then after a few weeks or 30 days or whatever, you get assigned a job or pick a job. I went into the kitchen and cooked. So in the morning I would cook. They wake you up at 5, you gotta make your bed, you go have breakfast, or if you cook like me, I was already down there cooking, so I cooked breakfast, and then classes for 4 hours. So it's 4 hours work, so you work your job, whatever it is, maintenance, cooking, housekeeping, whatever. There's different jobs. You work for 4 hours, and then you have your lunch, and then you have lunch and a break, and then you switch. You go to work or classes for me for 4 hours. So 4 hours of work, 4 hours of classes, drug classes, all about drugs, what it does to your body, what it does to your brain. I've done several hours of that. Thousands of hours of classes. I've done a few rehab, long-term lock-in rehabs, and they're both the same that way. You work 4 hours, you do 4 hours of classes. But this one was my first one, and it was co-ed with women. So there were men and women in this, and I'll do a whole different video about the men and women thing. But yeah, I was there for 15 months. The first 6 months, you're locked down, you can't go out, meetings, AA people come to you, groups, NA, AA, every night it's usually a different group with different people. And it's like 6 nights a week. I think we had 1 night off. If I remember, I could be wrong, it could have been 7. This is like 20 plus years ago. But AA meetings came in every night. And then, so we did AA meetings, drug classes, and we worked every day. And then if you did have an emergency, like a funeral to go to or something, you had to take somebody with you, another client, not a worker, but another client. I had to do that once with a friend slash client. He lived in the room next to me. His father wasn't happy. He thought I worked for him, then we explained what was going on, and I was just a friend doing a favor, but his father did not care. But the rest of the family was nice. And then there was another time, another friend had an emergency where he had to go to the hospital in the emergency room at like 2 in the morning, so he woke me up and got permission, and we went and did that. But anyway, for the first 6 months, the meetings come to you, you don't go out, and then after it might have been 30 days or 6 months. I've been in a few, I don't remember this one particularly. I think it was 6 months, and then you could go to outside AA meetings with a group of people, other clients, a group of you, because you could go out. They had a van, and then after a year you can get a job in a car, and you can stay for another 6 months if you work. So there were people there with cars, so we would go with them at night after 6 months. And after a year, my parents got me a car, and I got a job, and I stayed there for a few more months. And that was my first experience, and it was quite an experience. A year of lockdown, rehab. I didn't leave. I barely left the place. Meetings at night, after 6 months, meetings at night, and emergencies with other clients. But it was good. I learned a lot. I learned how drugs affect your brain, your body. I did for a year and a half, or for a year, I did 4 hours a day, 5 days a week of classes, all about addiction, drugs, how to fix your life, how to get your kids back, how to get through court, all that stuff. They taught you that in rehab, and I've actually done it twice now. But the first time it was for 15 months. The second time, I'll talk about that in another video, that was for like 13 months. And it's the same routine. That was just a men's group, a men's house. But that was a lot more lenient. I'll do a different video on my second rehab, long-term rehab. But this is about my first long-term rehab. And yeah, like I said, it was men and women. They fed it. We ate twice a day, plus we had snacks. You get fat. Everybody gets fat. All the free desserts and everything. And they give you all kinds of different meds too, like Seroquel and different sleep meds. And you meet a lot of different people. People come in and out. Like, I was there for a year. I met like 1,000 people. Some people last a day. Some people last a week. Some people last a month. Some people get high in the building, and then get kicked out. We had another guy. That was the craziest one. Like I said, there's people that have been there over a year and they got cars and they go to work. One of the clients he's a client too, the guy that works, he goes out and does his job and comes home back to the rehab. Talked him into bringing heroin into bringing drugs into the rehab, and he got scared and thought he'd get caught, so he went and turned the dude in, and then he told everybody he was saving everybody's life when he was the guy wanting the drugs. But yeah, it's crazy. It's really a crazy thing living in a long-term rehab. But it can help some people. That one I was stipulated at, so the day after I got out, I was getting high. I was court ordered. It was not a choice. It was do prison time with men or find a rehab. And I found one that was co-ed, so there were women everywhere. It was a good rehab, actually. I got lucky. I had good insurance, so it wasn't hard for me to get into a good rehab. And that's it for this video. I'll see you on the next one.